plenty of mass murders in this country where you have people that are extremely educated and knowledgeable on how to use guns. Now, PTL, what's up, Don?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
Hi, Don.
Hey, yeah, this is some tragic stuff, but I also think we need to take a step back and stop being hyperbole. How many times when you look at these things going on and we propose the concept that we're going to control guns in the public, how many times is that going to fail before we finally understand you're not going to regulate this? You can't regulate.
So what are your solutions?
Well, that's not hyperbole. That's not what we said.
That's not what I said
that's
either.
Not what we said.
Yeah, that's not what we said, Don.
If we did say that, it would be hyperbole, but that's not what we said.
I gave you 5 or 6 different things that that I think would help lower the gun violence in this country.
Concrete, factual.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Don,
I understand, but that's what you think. That's what you say you think.
Okay. So what are your solutions?
Tell you that.
So tell me.
Education, obviously. We have so watch. Do you want to know
education? So you think all these guns in this country, but the gun violence would be lowered if people were educated? What are you talking about?
Do you want me to explain it to you?
Please. But I'll interrupt if I want to because it's my show and not yours. But go ahead.
So, well, I'm just trying to be respectful. That's all. That's all.
Well, you're not being very respectful when you put words in my mouth and you say we want to control
it hyperbole, and we didn't say that.
You're not being. Well, okay. Thank you for apologizing, but you can understand why I would get a little bit irritated when you start the conversation by claiming we said something we didn't say. But go ahead, sir.
Okay, I apologize for that. That's not what my intent was. However, do you agree that our National Guardsmen are some of the finest in the world?
Finest in the world at what?
What they do.
And what do they do?
Citizen soldiers. Our citizens, I'm not talking about the active duty component. I'm talking about our National Guardsmen.
We support our National Guard.
What does that have to do with gun control?
Supporting your National Guard is not an issue, but go ahead.
So please explain what that has to do with gun control.
So instead of thinking of gun control, we go through education. We contact our National Guard and everybody starts training and learning.
Okay, so let me get this right. Let me understand.
All of it.
Don, let me understand. Let me just understand what you're saying. You're saying if people were educated on guns, Columbine doesn't happen, Sandy Hook doesn't happen, the shooting in Minneapolis doesn't happen, the Las Vegas shooting doesn't happen.
Well, this kid today, if he was educated on guns, it wouldn't have happened?
He was educated on guns. Obviously, he knew how to use them. He bought 3 different guns, and he knew how to use them. You don't think the shooter in Las Vegas, who had about 30 different guns with him, wasn't educated on guns with the thousands of rounds of ammunition? No, sir. With all due respect, that's ridiculous. There are plenty of mass murders in this country where you have people that are extremely educated and knowledgeable on how to use guns. Now, I'll agree with you on this. I think there should be a mandatory class for everybody on how to use guns. I don't have a problem with that, Don. But if you're going to make the argument that these mass shootings wouldn't happen if these mass shooters were educated on guns, I find that to be ridiculous.
Yeah, education is not going to equal less gun violence.
I never said no way. I assume that.
Okay, so how do we stop? Okay, so let's address the issue. How do we stop these mass shootings?
So I just said stage 1, step 1. Okay, step 2. Before we even get to step 2, who do people call when there's a mass shooting? They call a cop for a gun, do they not?
Yeah.
What I'm advocating is that you have that gun in place with people that are educated and paramountly
police officers
knowing that. Guess what?
Okay, that's the same. That's the same thing you just said.
Yes. Do all of these things happen? Yes. But at the same time, you mitigate how many people are casualties when the others around there are doing the exact same thing you're saying. I've got 911 in my pocket for you. You're my brother and you're my sister. No, I don't want to do this. But I've been trained to know that this isn't what I want to do, but I have to.
So let me understand you, Don. Don, let me understand you real quick. So you don't think we should have an assault weapons ban? You don't think we should raise the age to 18 to 21? You don't think we should allocate more funds for people that are mentally ill? You don't think you should have to re-register your guns? The number one thing on your list is getting educated on weapons?
Yes.
Okay, well,
so you don't think a universal background check would help and holding gun stores liable for the violence because they didn't do a proper check? You don't think that's a good piece of legislation? You think education is the key?
First of all, you could also make the argument that if you have a bunch of psychos out there that are mentally ill and you educate them on how to use guns, you could say that could make things worse. I don't have a problem with like a 1 or 2 hour gun class, but for this guy to say that, you know, all these assault weapons, sell them to whoever you want as long as you're educated. So what does that mean? Does that mean that if you learn how to run a tanker or you know how to use a grenade, should we allow people to use grenades? As long as you're educated on how to use a bomb, should we let anybody have bombs? Don, do you see where I'm getting at here? Your logic makes absolutely no sense.